Welcome back to the channel. So what I have behind me is the LG GX950A 45-inch 5K 2K 165Hz with dual mode OLED gaming monitor. I've been living with it for about 2 weeks now, and I just wanted to share with you my impressions of this monitor. Now, this isn't going to be a comprehensive review, but what I can say is that once you have used this monitor, it will be hard to go back to any other ultra-wide gaming monitor. LG Australia loaned this to me for the purpose of making a review, but that does not mean my opinions will be biased or influenced by LG. So sit back, grab your snacks, and let's get into the review. One of the very first things you notice when you get the monitor is the massive box that it comes in. Now, I got a review sample, so the box you'll get will be different from this one. This was a plain brown box with minimal markings, but you will get a nice colorful purple branded LG UltraGear box. Inside the box, the base for the stand itself. You also get a huge power brick, which is kind of a big disappointment for me because a monitor this size, I would have expected the power brick to be built into the monitor. You also get a box full of your cables and accessories, which includes a very long DisplayPort 2.1 cable, as well as your HDMI 2.1 cable. The setup is rather easy. No tools required, just screw the base onto the stand. The stand then clicks into the back of the monitor and you are good to go. The monitor also uses a VESA 100 by 100 mount, so you can put this on a monitor arm. Now, keep in mind that this is a massive and heavy monitor coming in at just under 10 kilos, so you will need a heavy-duty monitor arm. On top of that, actually mounting it onto the arm by yourself can be quite the challenge, so if you've got someone there to help you, that would be better. I did it by myself, and it was doable, but I really risked cracking the monitor at some point. Now, looking at the monitor itself from the back, it is a very clean finish with a minimal design and aesthetic. I love how it is not overwhelmed with aesthetics that scream gamer. LG has gone for a very tasteful and minimal design. I love the stand is also very demure, very simple and elegant with just a single slot for your cable management. The stand gives you all the usual adjustments for height, for tilt, for swivel. Obviously, at this size, you cannot get rotation into portrait, though I'm not sure why anybody would put a 45-inch OLED monitor of this caliber in portrait mode, but some of you are mad enough to do that. Now, looking at the monitor on your desk, you can see it's a massive, massive monitor. So if you have a small desk, you will need to keep that in mind. I have the Secret Lab Magnus Pro XL, which is about 1.7 meters wide. And you can see that the LG GX9 takes about 80% of the desk space. However, the stand is sturdy and does keep it from wobbling or shaking. Once it's on your desk, it's firmly in place. At this size, you will want to keep it at least arm's length away from you so that you get the best peripheral vision of the monitor. Speaking of the curve, the LG GX9 uses an 800R curve, which is not the craziest curve that I have seen, but it's definitely enough to fill your peripheral vision, but at this size, I think the 800R curve is just enough to spare you the eye strain of constantly looking at the different corners of the monitor, which is something you would do a lot while gaming and even while working. Continuing with the design on the back, you've got the elegant RGB lighting, which does actually spew enough light on the back wall. Given the right lighting environment, you can adjust the lighting presets in the OSD menu, and in the dark, it actually casts a nice subtle glow on the back of your wall. For ports, this is one area where the UltraGear GX9 does come in a little bit disappointing. You do get your staples. You get 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. You get 1 DisplayPort 2.1. That's the new one. It has an 80 gigabyte bandwidth, so you can stream 4K to this panel without any display stream compression, which is good given the 5K 2K resolution of the monitor. Then you also get a USB Type-C port with 90 watts of power delivery, which is great for connecting your laptops where you can get power as well as video out. Finally, you get 2 USB Type-A ports so that you can plug in your peripherals. Now, where my disappointment with this comes in is that it is lacking a USB Type-B port so that you can connect two devices. Usually I like to connect my gaming rig with my laptop for work, and then I would use the USB ports to connect my keyboard, mouse, webcam, and use the monitor's KVM switch, which the GX9 does not have, to switch between devices whenever I switch computers. I think LG really missed the mark here. A monitor of this size and at this price should definitely have a lot more ports. If you are a person who uses two computers for work, one for personal, then that might be a deal breaker. There's also a joystick navigation nub at the back that helps you to navigate the monitor's on-screen display. I don't really like the positioning of this. I wish it was on the bottom bezel in the middle of the laptop, which is easier to reach because I often find myself fiddling to find it when I want to change something really quickly. What LG did instead was to put the dual mode button on the bottom of the display, and we'll talk about that more later, but essentially pressing that button switches the monitor from its native 5K 2K resolution into a lower 1080p ultra-wide resolution at a much higher refresh rate. Okay, so let's talk about the display itself. So the GX9 is using a 45-inch OLED panel. That alone would be a huge selling point, but LG has one up to the competition. This panel has the first ever 5K 2K. That's a resolution of 5120 by 2160. So it's essentially 4K resolution stretched out a little bit, and it is stunning. By upping this resolution, LG has fixed that problem because the GX9 has a 125 ppi or pixel per inch density. That means everything is so much crisper and sharper at this resolution. And just for context, 32-inch 4K monitor has a PPI of 138. So you can see that this is not that far behind in terms of clarity and sharpness. Now, as someone like me who does user interface design, working in Figma and other tools, I really value sharpness and clarity, and this monitor handles all of that exceptionally well. If you also do a lot of writing or looking at spreadsheets and documents, you will not get any strain or eye fatigue because everything will be very clear and sharp and you won't be straining to read fuzzy text. Not to mention the expansive real estate that you have. 45 inches is massive, a massive canvas, and it is a multitasker's dream. You can split dozens of windows if you want to. It's fantastic for the kind of work that I do as a designer as well as a content creator. Editing videos, I can see my whole timeline with a massive preview window. Everything is open and not squished. It's just a fantastic place to work. Of course, it's an OLED, which means color reproduction is excellent. The GX9 covers 98.5% of the DCI-P3 color gamut with a delta E of less than 2. Now, without getting into nerdy specifics, that just means color accuracy is very high. So if you are doing any kind of color accurate work, you will enjoy working on this monitor. Colors are punchy and vibrant. The contrast is exceptional, giving you that infinite black. So when things are black, they are perfectly black. And that extra contrast just makes every color pop beautifully on this monitor. And even though it's a curved monitor, the viewing angles are very good. No matter what angle you are looking at it from, I didn't notice any color distortion or brightness changes that usually happen with IPS or VA monitors. Here, everything looks spectacular, but you will always want to be standing in the middle of the monitor to get that expansive wraparound view, no matter what you're doing. As with most OLEDs, the GX9 doesn't get as bright as IPS or mini LED monitors can. The GX9 is VESA Display HDR certified for True Black 400. Typically, that means it will hit an average of about 500 to 600 nits of brightness in HDR. In SDR mode, it's only hitting about 275, which isn't the brightest, but because of the contrast and that anti-reflecting coating on the display, it's perfectly serviceable even in bright rooms. I have not had any issue. I have a bright light just up above me right here and another over there. And as you can tell, there's not a single reflection or anything happening on the display, and it just looks stunning. In HDR, everything looks beautiful, and I just love, love, love using this. There really is nothing quite like playing Doom the Dark Ages or Cyberpunk with HDR and ray tracing on this massive, gorgeous screen. It just really sucks you in, and you can see from some of the clips I'll have on screen what it looks like, but it's one of those things that you have to see to believe. And really, it's in gaming where this monitor stands head and shoulders above the crowd. There is no genre of game that doesn't look spectacular at this size on this monitor. I don't care whether you are playing Cyberpunk, CSGO, or Stardew Valley. This thing absolutely slaps. Now, obviously, the resolution of 5K 2K is going to make any graphics card scream. I have an RTX 4070, which is not the latest and greatest in my rig, but I have been able to run all my games very easily with DLSS well above 60 frames per second, and that's all I need. I love to play single-player narrative games, so it works perfectly for me to sit down and get lost in Night City, driving around, walking around, enjoying the sights and scenes, looking at the incredible hellscapes in Doom the Dark Ages and all the murals. And this monitor helps you appreciate it. That clarity that I spoke about earlier that makes desktop work even better works just the same in games. At that resolution, everything is chef's kiss. But here's the thing. You don't have to compromise performance with this monitor. If you need higher frame rates, if you're playing Call of Duty or CSGO or Valorant or any other fast-paced shooter, that's where the dual mode comes in clutch. At the press of the button, you can drop the GX9 from its 5K 2K resolution at 165 Hz refresh down to 2560 by 1080p at 330 Hz. That's more than enough for your fast-paced shooters. However, I did notice that immediately you drop it down to the resolution, everything looks so much softer and blurrier. You lose the crispness, the sharpness that just, well, that's the appeal of this monitor, that sharpness. And so, yes, in those games, you will quickly stop noticing that your HUD is not the sharpest, most detailed thing because you're so focused on the action anyway. And that's what's important. The fluidity at 330 Hz is beautiful. It's sublime, and you will slay. Dual mode comes with a whole bunch of presets that you can choose from the OSD menu. You're not just reducing the resolution, but you can also shrink the view pane. So the presets include a 39-inch ultrawide, 34-inch ultrawide, 27 regular 16:9, and 24 16:9. That is more than enough options for anyone. You're essentially getting 5 other monitors in the one monitor for the same price, and that is the killer feature of this monitor. Right, and I forgot to mention that the GX9 also has built-in speakers, which is great for when you're in a pinch. However, they aren't the best sounding speakers, which again is extremely disappointing for a monitor this expensive and this size. I would have expected that LG would have used the same Pixel sound speakers that they have in their 32-inch 4K monitors, which sound amazing, but these ones, they're passable. Listening to the audio, it sounds like it's just coming out of the bottom middle section of the monitor, almost firing backwards away from you, so it doesn't really sound engaging. I would have loved for a much better speaker setup on this monitor. Okay, so how much does all of this cost anyway? At the time I'm making this video, the GX9 costs $1,199 US. Converted to Australian dollars, that's about $3,500. That's a lot of money for a gaming monitor, for sure. You can get any number of excellent 34-inch ultra-wide QD OLED monitors for half that price and do something else with the change that remains. I don't think you're getting that much more of a monitor to justify the price, but it is an incredible experience nonetheless. And if you are willing to spend the money, I doubt very much that you would regret it. However, there are some caveats. At this price, this monitor is missing a couple of key things. Number one is it doesn't have a KVM switch. Number two, it doesn't have an abundance of USB ports. It should have at least 4, maybe even 6. 3, the speakers are just mid. 4, it comes with an external power brick. Why? I do not know. 5, I'm not particularly happy with the placement of the OSD joystick. I wish it was underneath the bottom bezel. It would be a lot easier to access. Even better, I would have loved for LG to bundle a remote with this thing And then there is the dual mode. After 2 weeks of using this monitor, I have not found any occasion to want to change the mode out of the native. I feel like it's just a compromise that isn't really worth it to me to get the blurrier picture. If you are a pro gamer, you wouldn't be buying this. You would be getting something more dedicated towards esports. I feel like this is more dedicated to people like me who are using the monitor for extensive, productive, and creative type of work, and then sitting down to enjoy an immersive single player game experience at night. All that being said, there is so much to love about this monitor. Number one, 45 inches of OLED is unbeatable. I mean, OLED is already fantastic when it comes to a monitor. Now, making it 45 inches, wow. Secondly, 5K, 2K, that is a massive bump in resolution, and it shows. Whether you are working, whether you're playing games, everything looks pin sharp with great detail. Combine that with the native qualities of an OLED and you get a viewing experience that is so unmatched. Number three, the 800R curve. I have enjoyed working and gaming on this monitor. I have not had any strain in my eyes. It's just a multitasker's dream. I love working on this thing, but it is truly immersive when you sit down and get lost in a game and your field of view is wrapped by this massive, beautiful tapestry. Yes, I know it doesn't have a KVM switch, should be there at this price, but you can live without it. So that's it about the LG UltraGear GX9. I would love to hear your thoughts about whether you would drop all that money on this monitor. Do you think it's worth it? Let me know in the comments. Unfortunately, I don't get to keep this monitor. It will be going back to LG. Still, I'll do my best to answer any questions that you have. And if you're interested in more big screen gaming, then have a look at the video here that talks about a 300-inch gaming experience. Now, if you found this video helpful, do the usual things, hit the like button. It appeases the algorithm gods. As always, thank you for watching. God bless you. Peace.